I'm right by the highway. It's the highway. And I was thinking about mental mistakes, the mental mistakes that I make. And I kind of one that I think that, like, I make this mistake because it's so similar to the right way, or the way that I enjoy. And it's expectations. That I have expectations that might be that I have an expectation of the outcome, you know, as opposed to, like, I have an expectation to try this and I expect to enjoy it, let's say. And let's say, like, to give you an example, I take a ball, I'm on the top of a hill, and I'm going to roll the ball down the hill. And my expectation is it's going to reach the bottom, and that'll be fun. And I roll it down the hill, and it goes halfway and gets hooked on something, and it stops rolling, and I'm disappointed. When as almost exact same kind of expectation is, I'm going to go top of the hill, roll the ball down because I think it'll be fun, and see what happens. And then having it stop halfway is not a failure, you know, it's just what happened. And then you have decisions to make from there. Common mistake, I make it a lot. Other mistake. Oh man, this has got to be one of the biggest mistakes that I've ever made using my mind. Going to a restaurant, let's say, like when I'm like thinking like, hey, I want to go out to a restaurant, my mind pops up all the terrible times I've had in every restaurant ever. From like when I worked in a restaurants I've been that have got terrible service, restaurants I've been to where customers acted terrible. The thing is, though, I did not discourage this, connect the dots of bad memories. And because at some point in time, like, I was using, like, oh, do you want to go to the hot springs? Like, oh no, man, I've had all sorts of bad experiences out there at the hot springs, which was true. But I think in reality, it's like the hot springs have gotten so popular, it's crowds now, it's much more up. Like, the thing is, like, for me, it was just the place has become different. I don't enjoy it anymore. But I use those bad memories of, like, oh no, once I went up there and these guys did this and vandalism, whatever, you know, like. So I mistakenly used bad memories as a tool to get what I want, as opposed to saying the truth, and that I just don't feel like going to those hot tubs anymore, or those hot springs. I'd rather just go to some hot tubs here in Portland and know that they're quiet and clean and fancy. Other mental mistakes. Sometimes when someone's speaking, especially someone I don't know, I'll categorize them. I'll be like, this person's confused. This person's not paying attention. This person's not paying attention both with their eyes, they're not looking, and they're not listening. And then I saw some other things too. Now I think this is it's good to know this if you need their cooperation, if you need them to look and listen. So you're like, well, I need to, you know, bring their attention about. But I think I was just kind of keeping track also about just how many people kind of go through life with kind of a vague, fuzzy awareness. Like, their mind is not where they're at. Their head is in the clouds, or their head's in the future, or in their past, and they're not paying attention to the now. I think that could get a little addicting and also a little bit disrespectful of people. Because, like, at times, I remember I walked up a couple days ago to get coffee, and as I started to say what kind of coffee I wanted, I started to say, like, I want 17 ounces of, and I'm like, wait a minute, I have a 16-ounce cup. I'm like, wait a minute, what kind of cup do I have? What sizes do they sell? And my mind just totally went blank. So I walked up, all I get is black coffee. Actually, my barista knew what I wanted. All I had to do was let go of my cup. But my mind slipped into neutral for a moment. See, the thing is, like, you could judge me. I would judge me for that one moment. And if, like, 300 people or more go through that coffee line, and 1 out of 100 has that kind of, like, moment, you think, oh, people are just so this, that, or the other thing. But that's just that one moment, and that's out of a huge amount of people, and we all do it. So like that's a mental mistake I make sometimes, is say like people do not do this, people don't pay attention, when it's really like occasionally we all are just like, you know, worried about like we have to get home or something like that, and we're not thinking about where we're at the moment. You know, a mental mistake I make actually sometimes is not trying to consider multiple outcomes on something. Maybe the whole rolling down the ball down the hill example might be a good one. What if that ball makes it all the way to the bottom of the hill and then a little bit further and then ends up in the road? You know, it's like, sometimes I do things because I think they're going to have a good outcome, but instead it has a bad outcome, and not only that, it's way worse than I thought it was going to be. And then you have to figure out, it's like putting something together, and now you have to figure out how to take it apart and do it right again, but also you're using the same materials and there's going to be damage. That stuff's never going to be the same. The situation will never be the same. And I guess sometimes you do things just to try it. You're like, well, let's see how this works out. But sometimes you have to realize this is important. This has to be done with a certain amount of finesse. And I guess that's how you go slow. And if you don't know the outcome, you don't go so far that you can't say, oh, I see where this is going, and this is as far as I want to go with it before it's too late, before too much damage is done. I think sometimes I have an immature view of repercussions. Actually, that's probably enough. I think the immature view of repercussions, I remember reading Master and Commander series, the Patrick O'Brian books, and both these, the Doctor and the Captain, kind of have a little kind of like an immaturity about them. And but yet then they're put on these sailing ships in these confined communities, and you will be known for, you know, your foibles, your mistakes, and your successes forever. Like these communities, like Jack was put before the mast. He was rated as a common sailor for stealing some food from the captain. And people never forgot that. He's like he was like a boy when that happened. Now he's like an admiral. He's like admiral, and he's like, well, hey, weren't you put before the mast once? Yes. Long time ago. So I think despite them knowing, or maybe not knowing, because the Doctor was new to that kind of community, but he was a part of the religious community and the medical community, so he knew about reputation. He knew the importance of making the appropriate decisions and reacting to things in a way that wasn't maybe not a knee-jerk reaction, but like, what do I want? What is my legacy? What do I want to be remembered for?